Hoarfrost-Z and Agers Scepter are a match made in heaven when it comes to Titan Stasis builds. This pairing is going to have you in control of the battlefield, slowing, freezing and shattering enemies with absolute ease. Well, today I'm going to show you the build, so the weapons, the armour, the mods, plus the stasis setup so you can put everything on ice that gets in your way. Well, if you're new around here or find this useful, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below for all the latest Destiny 2 content and turn on notifications by hitting that bell. Roughly 98% of viewers who watch This Week in Video Games aren't subscribed, so subscribe today and never miss an update. Without further delay, let's dive right into the build. So first of all, we have the stasis setup. My super, I've got Glacial Quake. My class ability, I've got Towering Barricade. My melee ability, it's Shiver Strike. And for my grenade, it's a Glacier Grenade. Then for the aspects, I'm using Tectonic Harvest, so shattering a stasis crystal creates a stasis shard. The shard grants melee energy when picked up by you or your allies. Also using Diamond Lance, so shatter or defeat targets with stasis abilities to create a stasis lance. So you can throw the lance to freeze targets on impact and slam the lance into the ground to freeze targets in a small area of effect. Well, next up, looking at the fragments, I've got Whisper of Rhyme. Collecting a stasis shard grants a small amount of overshield. I've got Whisper of Shards. Shattering a stasis crystal temporarily boosts your grenade recharge rate. You've got Whisper of Chain, so while you're near frozen targets or friendly stasis crystals, you take reduced damage from targets. We've got Whisper of Fissures, so increasing the damage and size of the stasis burst when you destroy a stasis crystal or defeat a frozen target. And finally got Whisper of Bonds, so defeating a frozen target grants you super energy. Well, next up, looking at the exotic armour, I've got Hoarfrost-Z, so this one is an exotic Titan chest armour. We've got Glacial Fortification for the perk. So when using the stasis subclass, your barricade becomes a wall of stasis crystals that slows nearby targets when created. Standing behind the barricade will grant you and your allies increased weapon reload speed, stability, and also range as well. We can get this one from Lost Sectors, so that's Legend or Master when you complete them solo when it is chest day. You can check out a really useful tool called todayindestiny.com, and that'll give you all the relevant information about which Lost Sector it is, and also what rewards are available. Next up, let's have a look at the weapons. So in the kinetic slot, I'm using Agers Scepter. It's an exotic kinetic trace rifle with some really interesting perks. Synergizes really well with stasis builds, so let's check out those perks. We've got Agers Call. Final blows of the weapon generate a slowing burst around the defeated target. And Rieger's Refrain, so stasis final blows transfer ammo to the weapon's magazine from reserves. In the energy slot, I'm using Shadow Price. It's a legendary energy auto rifle with a precision frame, meaning the weapon's recoil pattern is much more predictably vertical. So I've got one with Swashbuckler, and that works really well with melee builds. Also, it goes with anti-barrier champions this season, with anti-barrier auto rifle. So if you don't have Shadow Price, another energy weapon that's going to take care of champions will do just fine. In the power slot, I'm using Chain of Command. It's a really good machine gun. Comes with a selection of perks. Got Adrenaline Junkie, Demolitionist, Osmosis, and Adaptive Munitions. So I normally go for Adrenaline Junkie and Demolitionist, given I have a grenade focus for this build. So Demolitionist in particular is really good, because kills with a weapon generate grenade energy, and that's going to help me get my Glacier Grenade back nice and quickly, so I can use as many as possible. Also, this is a stasis weapon, so it goes really well with the build. Next up, looking at the mods, I'm using Elemental Ordnance, so defeating a combatant with a grenade spawns an elemental well that matches your subclass energy type. I'm using Bountiful Wells. Elemental well mods that cause you to spawn elemental wells now stack, spawning additional wells for each additional copy of the mod you have equipped. Font of Might, so increase 2 weapon damage after picking up an elemental well. And Elemental Shards, so stasis shards counter stasis elemental wells for you. We got Anti-Barrier Auto Rifle, Overload Machine Gun, and then also Resilience. I'm bumping up as close to 100 as I possibly can for that 40% damage reduction. Okay, next up, let's have a look at the gameplay for this build. So this one is a really fun build and takes advantage of all of the Titan Stasis toolkit, allowing you to control the battlefield, support your fire team, and shatter and slow and freeze enemies. This build revolves around Hoarfrost-Z and Agers Scepter, two very effective exotics, and they really improve the gameplay for any Stasis Titan. Well, first of all, let's have a look at that combo. So Hoarfrost-Z is going to give us Glacial Fortification. So when using your Stasis subclass, your barricade becomes a wall of Stasis crystals that slows nearby targets when created. It's going to create a defensive barrier that can also be deployed as a weapon to freeze enemies in place. Then Agers Call on Agers Scepter is going to generate a slowing burst around defeating targets. So as well as all of your abilities and super coming from your Titan, Agers Scepter is going to be really useful for controlling all enemies that try and attack you. We're also going to be taking advantage of the rest of the Stasis kit, including our class ability with Hoarfrost-Z and Grenade. So we're going to be creating a lot of Stasis crystals, meaning we're going to be shattering a lot of them too. It's going to lead to increased grenade recharge rate and pretty much a consistent overshield. Whisper of Change is going to help us take reduced damage, and Whisper of Bonds is going to make sure we get our super on a very regular basis. Well, last time I did a build with Hoarfrost-Z, I used an aspect related to sliding, and I found that Diamond Lance is much more effective. Shatter or defeat targets with stasis abilities to create a stasis lance. This is much better. Creating weapons that could be picked up on the battlefield and used as an extra means of damage felt better than sliding into a stasis attack, which did, to be honest, feel much weaker. Diamond Lance, for me, is definitely much better. So given we got our grenades up nearly all of the time, I'm using Elemental Ordnance to generate Elemental Wells plus Elemental Shards. So we are constantly picking up wells or shards, giving us front of might, which improves our overall damage output by about 20%. Regarding the weapons, Agers Scepter is in the kinetic slot, but the other weapons are reserved for champion weapons. So at the time of making this guide, that was anti-barrier, auto-rifle and overload machine gun, but you can mix and match the weapons and the mods to deal with the champions in the endgame activity of your choice. For example, Nightfalls, dungeons, raids, and also Legend and Master Lost sectors too. Well, let me know what you think of the build in the comments, and let me know if you've got any improvements. Well, that is it for this Titan Stasis PVE build with Hoarfrost-Z and Agers Scepter in Destiny 2. And as always, thank you so much for watching or listening. For more Destiny 2 content like this, hit that subscribe button down below and subscribe to This Week in Video Games. Or you can check me out on Twitter at TWIVG Podcast. If you enjoyed this video, found it useful, liking and sharing the video would really help me out. Otherwise, check out the other videos on the channel. Well, thanks again, and I'll see you soon.
Congestion has cleared. Diagnostics report suggests I have returned to a normal rate of function.
You should be. We've wiped your engineering deck clean.
Good work, guys. Okay, I've got Zavala mobilizing other teams to secure the ship behind you. There's gotta be some way I can pawn off this paperwork. Maybe Hawthorne will do me a solid.